What's going on, everyone? My name's Tenebris Infinite, and today we're going to do a big one. The LMG comparison here in Generation 0. With 2 new LMGs and 2 experimental variants since the last time I did a test of the LMGs, it's high time we reassess what is the best LMG in Gen Z. If you haven't caught one of my comparison videos before, what we do is we put these weapons through rudimentary tests to find out the fine details of things like rounds per minute, general accuracy, and damage values. Through these 3 tests, we'll see what LMG stands on top of the rest, as well as the hidden strengths of these guns you might not know about. We have 4 light machine guns in the game: the KVM-59, KVM-89, N60, and the newest addition, the PM71. We'll be testing these weapons at their highest level, so for the 2 KVMs, we'll look at their experimental variants versus the DLC guns at 5 crown. The first test we've got is the RPM test. In this test, we burn a ton of ammo into the range to see purely how much we can chew out in the span of a minute. Firstly, we have the KVM-59, which has a solid RPM of 500 rounds per minute. Then next up we have the KVM-89, and the RPM of the experimental is actually lower than that of the standard 89 by about 40 rounds. But it makes up for it with the next test, so don't count the 89 out purely because of its weird stilted firing approach. Once you get good with the rhythm of the 89, you can still get an entirely adequate fire rate out of it with 400 rounds per minute. Now the N60, and this one's a special case for 7.62, again having a lower fire rate in order to benefit its accuracy. It's a bit of a drawback, but also could be a benefit depending on what you're looking for from your LMG. But with 401 rounds per minute, it's pretty much the slowest LMG besides the experimental 89. And lastly, the PM71, matching the KVM-59 pretty much shot for shot. It also has an RPM of 500 rounds per minute. At times it almost feels faster than the 59, but after doing a couple more RPM tests on these two, I found that they came out with the exact same results. But you dudes will see it's not the RPM that fully matters for these guns. Still, the 59 and the 71 stand on top for their RPM, which means a higher DPS than the other 2 weapons. But we'll see in our next test that that rate of fire comes at a cost. So for our next test, in order to see the accuracy of our guns, we'll fire off a full mag and then run up to the scoreboard to see what our shot dispersion is like. Normally we'd score them too, but seeing as LMGs carry such a crazy magazine capacity, we can't actually feasibly do that. But thankfully the team has gotten bullet holes working on targets again, so we'll still get a very clear idea of the accuracy of these guns. First up with a 20 meter range, then 45 meters. So for the first range, at 20 meters, the KVM-59 is able to keep all of its shots within the black ring of the target, excluding one stray bullet. It's got some serious hike to it, so you do have to compensate a lot for that, but that's something that's expected for an LMG, so we aren't going to hold that against it. But it's at 45 meters we start to see the KVM's weak point, as it bounces around a lot and winds up being inaccurate at even just medium ranges. For the 89, it's a funny case due to its experimental effect of growing more accurate the more you shoot. So in the beginning of the mag, it's your typical LMG, or even slightly worse. And when you hit the red pressure point, you will have a laser accurate shot. So I'd classify the 89 as being extremely accurate actually. Even though it's a bit of a backwards experience, once you get good with the rhythm of shooting the 89, you can go through a whole magazine easily at the high pressure level. Then the N60, and this thing is damn accurate. You're able to keep all shots very reliably on the target. The hike is more controllable too, at least to me. The US weapons recoil a bit differently than the other guns and feel less bouncy overall. And the N60 shows this off on an extreme level. Again, just like the 89, it's accurate even at medium ranges, which is really solid for a 7.62 LMG. And lastly, the 71. This one's kinda interesting. It's got much more recoil than the N60 and slightly less than the 59, so it sits kinda in between, but leaning much more to the 59 in terms of accuracy, especially at medium ranges. Though the hike feels pretty much identical to the KVM 59. So it's not exactly more accurate, just slightly more controllable. So outside of the aim hacks of the experimental 89 with its crazy inverse recoil, we have the 59, the 71, then the N60 in that order for accuracy, with the N60 performing much better than the rest. And for the final test of the day, we have the damage counts for these guys, which again has some results you might not expect. First up is the experimental 59. Its damage plus its shock capability nets a solid 13% on the fuel cell and 3% to the overall health. That 3% comes from it shocking multiple components instead of the one you directly shoot. There's a reason why this gun is so powerful I barely use it. It does disgusting damage and is capable of just sawing through the toughest enemies in the game. Then we have the experimental 89, and with its inverse accuracy, I had to get up close for a hip shot to land, but it does pretty underwhelming damage with 5% to the component and a measly 1% to the overall health. But it's when you get to high pressure that it actually does the same damage as a 7.62 LMG, which is a really solid jump in terms of damage output, getting up to 12% per shot and 2% to the overall health. It doesn't seem to outdamage 7.62, but it at least being on the same playing field is great for a 5.56 weapon. For the N60, as a typical 7.62 LMG, it does 12% to the component and 2% to the overall health, only 1% shy of the 59. Then we have the PM71, and this is where we find a major difference. The PM71 does 17% component damage and 2% health damage. As component destruction does massive health damage, the PM71 outdamages its other 7.62 counterparts by a solid margin, especially when you consider it having equal RPM to the 59. This gun might have one of the highest DPS in the entire game. Mental, man. So let's rank these LMGs now and see which of these boyos is best. There is a small amount of personal preference here, but I think the stats speak for themselves mostly. The PM71 comes in first because it does the thing better than the other LMGs, which is cranking out high amounts of damage. When you combine its base damage with stuff like shock ammo, I think this is the exact reason why everyone loves the PM71. It's a beast! Then we have the KVM 59. It has higher overall damage, but lower component damage, so it's kinda your personal preference for which comes in first or second here, but I'm placing it in second simply due to the PM feeling more controllable and having higher component damage. It's a hard call between the two though, so let me know how you'd place them in the comments below. Then I put the N60 in third. It's very accurate, but its damage difference means that controllable recoil comes at its own cost too. As I said earlier in the video, it all depends on what you want to use your LMG for. If you like close combat, you'll probably want one of the higher damage LMGs. And if you enjoy medium to long range combat, you'll probably want to give the N60 or 89 a shot. And in last place, the 89. I want to place it higher because it's so unique, but its uniqueness is its downfall. Having lower RPM, weird recoil, and a penalty for full auto, the 89 is a cool concept and fun to mess around with, but far from being the best LMG to use in Generation 0. So, I want to know, what's your favorite LMG in Gen Z? Mine's probably the 89 for its unique gameplay aspect, though it's really hard to turn down the PM71 nowadays if I'm ever going to use a 7.62 LMG. But as always, I want to thank you for watching my video, supporting it in any way. It really means a lot to me. But cheers, everyone, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.